Welcome back to the morning show. Kenny Santucci here with another pro athlete. We've been very gifted. We've been very blessed this Wodapalooza to have so many great athletes and so many rock stars on the show. No shortage of that. 18 years in the NHL. Scott Thornton on the FITAID morning show. It's an honor to have you here, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell us how you got into, we know you're a hockey player. How'd you get into the fitness space? Why'd you get into CrossFit?
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting kind of evolution for me. I actually finished my career in California, played in San Jose for 7 years, in LA for a couple, and even though I was right in the heart of it around Santa Cruz, I never even knew about it when I was playing down there. But,
okay, and how long ago was that?
I retired in 2008.
Okay.
And moved back to Ontario. And
so
for me,
that's when it started to get kind of popular.
Yeah.
Some people knew about it, the inner circles.
Yeah, and you know, like everybody's story, no idea where I first learned about it or whatever, but I kind of started doing it. It's very similar to the training I did as a pro athlete anyway. And I liked the competitiveness. I liked, you know, being on the clock and sort of competing with friends and buddies and stuff like that. And then it just evolved and kept growing from there. Everybody
remembers the first workout they did. What was your first workout?
You know what? I can't remember. It was a running wad. I want to say it was Helen or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember now, to be honest with you. But.
And when you think about it, you're like, oh, all I really did, I ran 400 meters, swung a kettlebell. But when you're really pushing it, that's the game changer. It's always the intensity level.
Damn right. I mean, everybody has their Fran horror stories, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, this should be really easy.
Fire breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So now you own a gym up in Canada, but you also run a major event. Tell us a little bit about the event, how you got into that.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. We actually sold my gym. I opened a CrossFit gym in our little town of Collingwood, which is it's called CrossFit Industry. Okay. You know, owned, operated that, got into coaching, and love being around the athletes every day.
Yeah.
My goal was really to recreate a dressing room environment, which is where I'm most comfortable.
Yeah.
And from that, it evolved into doing some events just to kind of, you know, keep the gym engaged throughout the year. Mm-hmm. And we have an event, it's under the name of UG Series, which is short for Underground. Okay. And our Beach Wad event is in July up in Canada and Ontario. And and it's grown to 1,200 athletes over a weekend.
That's huge.
And it's been great. I mean, like I said, the first year, 124 people out in the beach just having some fun. And within 3 years, we had 1,200 people there. So we're on to something good.
It's cool to see the evolution. Now, if people at home wanted to sign up or check it out, and come up there, because you'd be surprised how many athletes here, just here at Wodapalooza, flying in from all over the world.
Absolutely.
To come and train here.
I've got a bunch of Canadian friends down here competing, you know, which is great. That's why we're down here kind of cheering them on this weekend and being part of this event. And you know, UGseries.com is where you can find us for information up north. So,
I might have to jump in there myself.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Come on up.
We'd love to come up.
We should do one in the winter for all you guys to come up in the snow and play around out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Building snowmen or something up in Canada. So tell us a little bit about your hockey career. So you said you were on 6 different teams?
Yeah, I started my career. I was drafted in 1989, way back then, and played my first year as a 19-year-old kid in 1990 up in Canada in Toronto, and played on a couple teams, Toronto and Edmonton and Montreal, my first 10 years pro. And then I had an opportunity to sign as a free agent down in San Jose, and went down there, and I had a fantastic 7 years down there. Yeah. Building kind of a newer franchise in California, and it's San Jose has turned into one of the best hockey towns in the hockey in the NHL now, and the fans are great. And
so now, being a hockey guy, you know, we just had one of the guys from the Miami Dolphins on. I'm always inquisitive about, like, what are those towns you go to where you're like, oh man, the fans are going to be fucking brutal to us. Yeah. Where was that town for you?
Well, you're from New York, so Madison Square, but
they're brutal out there.
The most intimidating building was actually in Chicago, which was the old stadium. I'm old enough that I played in the old stadium. Okay. And it was terrifying. The fans, from the first note of the national anthem, the stadium would light up. You couldn't even hear the song being played. Your hair would be standing, your skin would be crawling. Yeah. And if you can't get fired up for a hockey game in Chicago Stadium, then you can't play.
You know, it's so funny. We were just talking about it, how strong athletes are and how you know, dialed in you have to be mentally. But it still affects everybody when you walk out there, and you know, there's people shitting on you. Yeah. And it's funny because I say, the average bleacher creature is like fat, out of shape, and they're shitting on a guy like you who's in great shape, who will probably beat them at playing chess, let alone a hockey game.
Right, yeah.
You know, and it's still like intimidating to hear thousands of people just shitting on you. You know?
Yeah, I mean, when you're in the heat of the moment, you
just drown all that out.
You're pretty tuned into what you're doing, and but yeah, you're right. I mean, remember Peyton Manning's commercials when he's in some guy's office and he's heckling him at his office job in his cubicle, and I thought it was brilliant marketing.
It really is.
And I would love to do that to people. Right?
I was at a Jets game not too long ago, and I'm not much of a Jets fan. My brother is, and I'm there, and I'm sitting next to these two guys who are stuffing their faces, so out of shape, and they're talking about what a pussy Tom Brady is. And I go, Tom Brady is really amazing at everything he does.
Right.
And he's so much better than you. It's like, it's just, I guess it's a release for people like that, but it's so impressive, like when you meet pro athletes, like how dialed in you have to be. And now to see you transfer from the NHL into CrossFit, do you see the parallels with competing and just doing workouts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing that that kind of drew me into this is it's a very technical sport.
Yeah.
And I love practice. I love, learning. I love being coached, and so this whole sport of CrossFit, or sport of fitness, I guess, was what was really engaging for me, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a lot older. I'm 46 years old now, but I still like to learn. I still like to be coached.
Yeah.
I'm a detail-oriented guy, so I love that. I love being challenged like that.
How much of what you do in CrossFit were you doing prior to that while training for the NHL?
We train very, very similar ways. In fact, I used to do, what I learned to be an AMRAP.
Yeah.
We basically used to do that in summer training. It was called circuit training, but we would basically do 60-minute AMRAPs. And it implemented a lot of stuff that I learned in CrossFit. The only thing we didn't do is we didn't snatch overhead. Yeah. We didn't press out overhead.
Well, see, I used to work with a guy, like a mentor to me, a guy, Joe DeFranco. He does a lot of stuff with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And huge fan of his. He's been like my mentor, and he always talked about. He trains a lot of NFL guys, NHL guys.
Sure.
And he always said, like, there's no real reason for an athlete to go overhead, because it's the most mobile part of the body and you don't want to. But when you're in the sport of fitness and doing CrossFit and stuff, it's kind of mandatory. So the maintenance on your shoulders has to be twice as much.
For sure. And I got to it way too late in my life. I've had 9 shoulder operations. So
wow, and that was not even going overhead.
Yeah, not even going overhead. Yeah. So, in fact, I look back and think, had I been doing more of this stuff as a younger kid, it might have prevented a lot of injuries and surgeries that I had. Yeah. So, I look back with regret only that I didn't find, this type of training, a lot earlier.
Yeah, that's my biggest regret. I started doing it at 25, 26 years old.
Yeah.
And now I see a lot of these younger guys, and you see these young kids out here, and they're killing it. And you're like, wow, what I learned at 26, he learned at 6.
Right.
So it's impressive.
We were riding stationary bikes and doing bench press. Yeah. That's kind of the way we trained.
Everybody's always like, oh, you got a great chest, but no arms. I'm like, that's all we used to do. So 18 years in the NHL. What would you say was your, what's that one memory you always think back to or look back to?
Well, first of all, being drafted. I'm a Canadian-born kid. I grew up watching Hockey Night in Canada, every Saturday night as a kid with my brothers. And I have 3 older brothers and my dad.
Whole family's hockey.
Idolized, everybody in Canada is a hockey fan.
Oh, yeah.
But,
I've been up there.
This is a rite of passage, right?
I told you, my best friend's a hockey guy from Canada. They eat,
what it's
sleep,
this
and
is
breathe.
religion for us up there. So,
for sure.
So for me, being drafted, and I got drafted to Toronto Maple Leafs, which was a 90-minute drive from my hometown.
That must have been
So amazing. For me, I had, high school buddies. They would rent school buses, and they'd come and watch me play on weekends. Awesome. And, so first of all, being drafted, my first game, your first goal. And then I also had the opportunity to play for Team Canada on a couple of occasions. And I played in a World Junior tournament and won a gold medal when I was 19 years old. And played in the World Championships as well for Team Canada over in Norway. And those memories are pretty special.
It's really cool to see such an accomplished athlete as yourself kind of embrace the sport of fitness, where a lot of people are always, kind of shitting on CrossFit and saying, oh, it's not good for you, blah, blah, blah. And to see an older, distinguished gentleman, distinguished athlete like yourself kind of pick up the sport and embrace it.
Yeah,
and doing really great things with it.
I mean, obviously, we all know there's, whatever, some negative, stuff that happens or whatever, injuries and stuff. But you know what? It's with everything. And I think most people that comment they're ignorant to what really, a gym environment is.
Exactly.
And to me, if you have some good coaching and some responsible people around you, this is the best type of methodology I could ever be in, and this is something, again, if I was doing this when I was 19 years old, it would have probably saved half of my, I've had 15 operations total.
Wow.
It probably would have taken 10 of them away for me. So
I got a question for you. You mentioned before you retired back in 2008. Yeah. What I see in a lot of athletes is how hard it is to kind of step away from the game, step away from the show. How hard was that for you?
It's tough, and it's still, I still go through times, and especially when I'm around hockey towns, and a lot of my friends are in coaches and management positions now, but my cousin Joe still plays in the NHL, so I follow it.
Okay.
But it's one of the reasons I opened up a CrossFit gym was I wanted to create the locker room environment that I missed. And again, I mean, I look for things that give me a little bit of a stoke that I had at certain times in my career, and I'll never be back on the ice. I'll never skate out for the warm up again, but I can find little ways to kind of keep myself engaged.
What about coaching? You ever think about coaching?
I did. I thought about it for a while, but I have 2 kids, and I was on the road for 18 years, and when I retired, I wanted to spend more time with them at home. And my son was, he was 12 at the time, and my daughter was 9 at the time. So I wanted to be around them and spend some time. And I value that family time now more than coaching. More
than coaching.
Yeah.
Final question.
Sure.
You played on 6 different teams, but who's your team?
San Jose Sharks are my team now.
Yeah.
I have my personal best playing years were in San Jose. Love the city.
Okay.
And my cousin Joe still plays in San Jose. So that's the team I'm rooting for to win a cup, I think, out there. Yeah.
Hey, it's been such an honor chatting with you, having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And one more time, where could everybody sign up for the competition?
Yeah, ugseries.com. Check us out up in Canada. We'd love to have you guys come and watch our event.
Cool. Thank you guys so much for checking in.